Record key now. Well, welcome everybody to Conscious Cafe Global. We have a lovely international evening tonight. My name is Gina Lazenby and I'm the host for this evening, and I'm going to introduce our guest speaker, Robert Holden. We have a wonderful session called Becoming Yourself and Being More of Your True Self with the Wisdom of the Enneagram. Now, the Enneagram I've heard of for many years, never really delved in and tried to understand it. So I'm really delighted that Robert's going to take us through what I know is a very complex subject in a very short period of time. So he's going to introduce us to it. He said in the introduction on the website that if you think something is missing in your life, it's probably you. And I thought, well, that's a fantastic opening invitation to really finding out more. So this is a 2,500-year-old system, and he says it is the fastest growing self-awareness model around now. And Robert's been in this game of self-improvement and human potential for decades. He didn't say how many decades, but he and I connected 30 years ago at the London Personal Development Centre. And at the time, his book was it was about happiness. And what he's done is really innovative work on psychology and spirituality, which has taken him to the Oprah show, to being on Good Morning USA. BBC Television has done 2 documentaries about his work on happiness, and he's been teaching the Enneagram for 20 years. He has a quiz with Hay House that you can go on to. He'll talk about that, and a book with them coming out this year, and that's on top of the 14 bestsellers that Robert already has New York Times listed. So we are so thrilled to have you, Robert. If we're in the same room, you would hear some applause, but you'll see hands shaking and people saying welcome, and I'm handing over to you. Welcome.
That's very, very lovely. Gina, thank you. Judy, Jackie, thank you for the invitation to be with you. Hello, everybody. I hope you've got your favorite beverage here at the Conscious Cafe. I've got myself my cup of coffee. One of my theories in life is that coffee is a delivery device for the Holy Spirit. And I'm going to stick by that. It works for me. And so it's very nice to join you here at the cafe. And what I feel you have here and what you've been creating is a space. Spaces are very important, aren't they, in our day-to-day life? You know, a space where we can really stop for a moment and hopefully tune into ourselves, tune into love, tune into wisdom, and get a feeling for what's really important in life. And I look forward to sharing some ideas with you on our theme of becoming yourself. And I'm also going to use the Enneagram, which has 9 lenses to support us in that inquiry. After I've said some bits and pieces, we will have a breakout room. And in that breakout room, I will ask you just to reflect on these 2 words, becoming yourself. You know, what's that like for you? Yeah, when you hear those 2 words, becoming yourself, what happens in your body when you hear becoming yourself? How does your heart respond to becoming yourself? What happens to your thinking and your psychology? Does anything occur? Do you get any images? Do you get any thoughts about what becoming yourself means for you right now? What does your soul have to say about this? Becoming yourself. There's an invitation here. And I think it's a lifelong invitation, by the way. And it's the most natural thing in the world, I think, to become ourselves. It also takes time. Doesn't happen right away. For any of us who have raised children, we get to see how our children become themselves again and again throughout the years. My daughter Bo has just turned 18 this week, so she's crossing a threshold where she's becoming herself, more of herself than ever before. And then after that, maybe I'll say a bit more, and we can then hopefully have a bit of a conversation as we would if we were in a cafe, which we are. So this week I wrote a newsletter called The Art of Becoming Yourself. I have a newsletter. It's a free newsletter. It comes out once a week, called Shift Happens with an F. And basically in this newsletter, I was just talking about the art of becoming yourself. And I shared a line from Eric Fromm, who is the author of, amongst other books, The Art of Loving and The Art of Being, two of my favorite books. And he said that man's main task in life is to give birth to himself, to become what he potentially is. And I, for one, can relate to that. I think our task is to become more of who we are. I think that the next level of happiness and the next level of success is always a dare to be even more of ourselves. And as Gina just pointed out in the introduction, you know, I have this theory, which is that if you think something is missing in your life, it's probably more of the real you. So I thought what I might do is just share with you a musing. I don't know if it's a poem, a musing, or just a stream of consciousness, but it's called Capable of the Universe. And I want you just to take these words in, see how these words land with you, all in the spirit of the art of becoming capable of the universe. You are capable of the universe. It took a whole universe to create you. You're made of the same stuff as the stars. Your I am is the activity of God. Your goal is to individuate. Don't copy, don't imitate. Ask yourself, who am I? Actualize your blueprint. Don't live a lie. Are you listening to the sound of the genuine? This is the appointed hour. Becoming yourself is being who you really are. Be the self that God made. Add a bit more heart and soul to all you do. Let your I am express itself through you. Life is not for the faint-hearted. Gamble everything on love, the poet said. Life is a risk worth taking. Don't fake it. Every defeat is a blessing. Every scar is a beauty mark. Be less of a me and more yourself. The I am is your divine spark. Be who you were born to be. So there's an invitation, I think, that life gives us over and over again, which is to become ourselves. And this idea of being capable of the universe is true because it really did take a whole universe to create us. We are made of exactly the same stuff as the universe. And this is our true nature. How do we become more of ourselves? Well, obviously, this is a lifelong journey, and we need all the help we can get, actually, don't we, in order to become our true selves. And over the years, I have looked for whatever I could find to help me in that journey. And I feel very, very lucky and very, very blessed to have met a number of wonderful mentors and teachers over the years, and have felt very, very supported by these people. But also I've found models and blueprints and patterns that I've also found very, very supportive along the way. For example, Carl Jung's 4 stages of life, which chart, you know, a path of growth for us. I found that to be very, very helpful. I teach on Joseph Campbell's work with the hero's journey. The hero's journey has 3 main acts, and these 3 main acts correspond with the sort of the 3 acts of Greek drama as well. They start with the end of normal, then we go on a road of trials, and we come back with a boon, with a gift to give the world. I also feel very blessed and inspired to have found A Course in Miracles, which has a daily lesson, 1 daily lesson for every day of the year, which is helping us truly, I think, to be more of our soul-centered self, and to recognize the light within us and be that light in the world. And it's been so helpful. And then another one of the models that has really helped me would be The Four Paths by Matthew Fox. I don't know if you're familiar with Matthew Fox, but Matthew Fox's work on the original blessing and the four paths has been super helpful to me in so many ways. One more model would be the Enneagram. So I came across the Enneagram in 2003. And I have to be honest, I wasn't that keen to get to know about it in the beginning. But I had a friend who persisted with me, and I'm so grateful that she did. Her name is Marika Borg, and she is a much loved teacher of the Enneagram. And she said to me at the time, she said, you know, Robert, if you really study the Enneagram, you will thank me for the rest of your life that I introduced you to the Enneagram. So I'll place on record again here. Thank you, Marika, once again for introducing me to the Enneagram, because it really has been so helpful to me in so many ways. I've been lucky enough to have been taught the Enneagram by many great teachers. And I've also taken the Enneagram on retreat to Findhorn, Scotland, for instance, Assisi, Italy, Montserrat in Spain, Galilee as well. And I've really enjoyed teaching, for example, love in the Enneagram, happiness in the Enneagram, purpose in the Enneagram, abundance and the Enneagram. And so to look at the Enneagram just for a moment, the Enneagram, the name Enneagram basically is a Greek word. It's a compound word. Ennea means 9 and gramma means drawn, symbol. And so let's take a little look at the Enneagram. Here is a picture of the Enneagram. So it's a circle, and there are 9 points on the Enneagram, and also there is
not showing, Robert.
Yeah, we can't see it.
You can't.
No, that's it. We got it.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. Can you see it now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So this is the Enneagram, and yes, it's a circle, 9 points on the Enneagram, and then also these 9 lines as well. And so essentially the Enneagram is over 2,000 years old. It's actually, yeah, if you do a Google search right now in, for example, North America, it is now the fastest growing, most popular self-awareness model in the world today. And essentially the Enneagram, the circle of the Enneagram basically is telling us that each and every one of us is whole and complete in our own way. And our work is not to change ourselves. Our work is to grow and become ourselves. Now, the 9 points on the Enneagram actually represent 9 points in us. So you can think of those 9 points as being meditation seats. And we can take a subject like becoming yourself and actually meditate 9 times on becoming yourself. Now, at the same time as having those 9 points there are also, those 9 points are the home of 9 types, 9 personality types. And type 1 is called the reformer, or sometimes the perfectionist. And then you can see type 2 is called the helper. Type 3 is the achiever. Type 4 is the individualist. Type 5, the investigator. Type 6, the loyalist. Type 7, the enthusiast. And type 8, the challenger. And type 9 up there at the top, the peacemaker. Now, just to say that these names don't define you. So even though we might say I'm a type 1 on the Enneagram, no, you're not really. You're untypable. It's impossible to type you. You're a soul. You belong to eternity. You belong to the infinite. So we're not defining you here, but what we are doing is pointing out a path of growth that could help you to become even more yourself. And by taking this path of growth, you're going to actually take in the whole of the Enneagram and explore it all. And it's rather I found it just to be so helpful. It's as deep as you want it to be. It's as practical as you want it to be as well. It was brought to us from the East by Mr. Uspensky, who wrote a wonderful book called In Search of the Miraculous. And he introduced us to the Enneagram really through his conversations with a rather enigmatic philosopher called Gurdjieff, or Gurdjieff, depending on how you like to say his name. And Gurdjieff, or Gurdjieff, he said this. He said, a man may be quite alone in the desert, and he can trace the Enneagram in the sand, and in it read the eternal laws of the universe. And every time he can learn something new, something he didn't know before. Now, that's rather exciting, if you like that type of thing. And what this points to is that the Enneagram is essentially a combination of sacred mathematics and also universal law, as well as a blend of spirituality and psychology as well. So let's take a little look, for example, at type 1. If you are a type 1 on the Enneagram, how do you know if you're a type? Well, you normally do some sort of a test or some sort of a quiz. And I've created a quiz which has been gone through testing with Hay House over the last year and is now out, and it's free, and we'll give you the link to that. You can also do a paid for report, but there's a very good free report as well with it, which is 1,500 words long and is very, very practical, very, very good. Point 1, type 1 is called the reformer or the perfectionist. And I just wonder for a moment, is there anybody here who is a type 1 on the Enneagram or thinks they might be a type 1 on the Enneagram? Just to see if I've got any hands. No? Okay. All right. Well, let's see. So type 1s are called the reformer or the perfectionist. And the name gives you a little bit of a sense of the life outlook and also the role they're going to play in life. The core motivations for a type 1 normally are that you aim to live a good life. You have a strong sense of mission. You want to make the world a better place. You're an advocate for positive change, and you're normally very involved in social justice and activism. Your healthy qualities are that you are highly principled and conscientious. You have a very strong moral compass. You are true to your word. You live with integrity. You're very responsible, and you really do try to lead by example. Now, if I give you an example of in real life of somebody who's a type 1, how many of you have heard of Caroline Myss, the teacher Caroline Myss? Can I just see? Okay, because I thought maybe a lot of you might have. So Caroline is a type 1 on the Enneagram. And I have taught 3 programs with Caroline: spiritual growth in the Enneagram, purpose in the Enneagram, and also love in the Enneagram. And she's a type 1. She wrote the book Sacred Contract, for example. And here's a quote from Sacred Contract. She says, "It is your birthright to discover your sacred contract. It will guide you to find your divine destiny." She also says this, and this gives you an insight into type 1s. "My personal creed is to do something each day that improves the world." So hopefully that just gives you a sense of type 1. Now, type point
Robert,
1.
Mette said she was a type 1 in the chat, if I'm not incorrect. Is that?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Well, we didn't put her hand up, but I just saw it in the chat if you wanted to know this. So Mette has identified herself.
Oh, okay, Mette, thank you. Yeah. So point 1 exists in all of us. So it should hopefully resonate a bit with all of us. But if it's your type, this would resonate the most. Mette, can I ask you, could you just fill us in a little bit with your experience of the Enneagram and how this sounds to you at type 1?
Well, I just took the test a couple of days ago, and it resonates completely with who I think I am and how I kind of experience myself in the world.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Since I was a little girl, actually.
Yes, it seems to be there from a very early beginning. And so as a type 1, there's this, the drive is to be good.
Yeah.
And now in the Enneagram points out that we are a soul and we also have an ego. And the Enneagram is trying to help us make friends between the soul and the ego. And so for the first half of our life, what the ego is trying to do at point 1 is to make us into a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And actually, because of that, we're moral, we're ethical, we're full of integrity, and we do genuinely show up in the world as a good person. Now, that said, the Enneagram recognizes that sometimes the effort it takes to be a good person can take its toll on us. Because what we do is we put ourselves under a lot of pressure to live at a very high standard. Does that resonate, Mette?
Absolutely. Yeah. I had absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like, it's my joy to be a good person in the world, but actually it's almost my cross to bear that I have to be so good all of the time.
Yeah.
And so what the Enneagram's doing is the Enneagram's saying, wait a minute, this effort to be a good person in the world is absolutely right. We're all here to do something good in the world. But if we only try to do it on an ego level, we will burn out. If we bring in, as a part of our growth, more of our soulfulness, what we come into contact with is our original goodness. Mm-hmm. Matthew Fox. Are you familiar with Matthew Fox by any chance?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Matthew Fox, I'm going to point you to Matthew Fox because Matthew Fox is this wonderful theologian who wrote the book called The Original Blessing.
Mm-hmm.
The original blessing is our original goodness. And what the Enneagram is helping us to see is that we don't have to make ourselves into a good person because we were made of original goodness. Yeah. Now, what we do is we say to the ego, thank you so much for keeping that flame of goodness alive for us. But now, as we continue to become ourselves, we're going to find a way to try less hard to be good. And we're going to actually trust that we don't have to make ourselves into a perfect person because we were already perfectly made. Mm-hmm. So what we're calling upon now is a greater sense of soulfulness. And spiritually, we're calling upon that original goodness to guide us, bless us, and inspire us in everything we do. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
This allows us to relax more into the mission. And it also helps us to be more and more soul-centered in the work of being a good person rather than ego-driven in an effort to be good.
Yeah.
And this is what happens to us 9 times, by the way. But this is just what's happening here at 9. So at 1 rather. So in order to become ourselves at 1, one of the meditations we might look at is, for example, what good things could happen to me if I judged myself less? That would be a meditation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. On an ego level, we judge ourselves a lot, all of us. But at 1, we judge ourselves especially because we're trying to make ourselves into a really good person. Yeah. Along the way, we start to think to ourselves, wait a minute, I've been judging myself for a long time here. How many more judgments have I got to put myself through before I'm okay? Well, what if the work, when it comes to really becoming ourselves, is to see who we are when we're not judging ourselves? Mm-hmm. So, Mette, if I was to ask you for a moment just to think about this, tell me one good thing that could happen if you judged yourself less.
I would relax more about who I am and feel freer, really be myself more.
Yeah. That's an invitation that the Enneagram would be offering you. It would be to say you've done so well to get to this point where that flame of goodness is still alive in you, and it hasn't been, it hasn't been forgotten. But now we're going to make a shift from being ego driven to being soul centered.
Yeah.
And now it's time just to tune in to the self that has never judged you. Yeah.
Sounds very good.
Yeah, it is. And you can feel it. It's almost a relief to hear it, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 And you tune into that self that's never judged you. And truly, when any of us have had an experience of our soul, when any of us have ever had an experience of the I am, or whatever you want to call it, honestly, hand on heart, you would know that yourself has never ever judged you. And if you really pay attention, I think it's also true to say life has never judged you. I don't think that God has ever judged us. We have images of God that judge us, but I don't think the real God has ever judged us. And I think we begin to get a feeling for that the sun has never judged us, the planets and the stars, they have never judged us, the oceans have never judged us. Nothing has ever judged us. Only we have judged us. And the judging was well-intentioned because it was trying to get us to be good and particularly make sure that we're not bad. But actually, the real work at a certain point comes when we start to get a feeling for what's it like to be me when I'm not judging myself. And that's when I think we get in touch with our soul. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, Matty, just having a little
Thank
conversation
you.
about it, because I think that really helps, to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, let's just see. Is there anybody here, if we were to go to 2.2 on the Enneagram, which is called the helper, is there anybody here who might be a type, who knows they're a type 2, for example? Yeah, Jackie? Okay, so let's just have a little look at this one, Jackie, together. So type 2 is called most often the helper or the giver. And I described the type 2 as being the heart-centered interpersonal type. That's not you, is it?
Not at all.
Oh dear. Because you're basically love on legs, let's be honest. I mean, which is also what a 2 is. I love just their love. So basically, what are the helper and the giver? How do you know about them? Well, they're the heart-centered types. They're the relationship-orientated types. They're service-minded. They're warm and loving. They have an amazing generosity of spirit. They're very kind-hearted. They are the type most likely to add a happy emoticon to a text or a message. Type 2s, the giver, the carer, the helper, they don't say, their favorite greeting isn't hello. Their favorite greeting is, how are you? Yeah. So because they care and they lean in and they want to know all about you. And look, and they're very, very gorgeous. And here's the thing is, by the way, one of their soul gifts is they help you to find your soul gift. One of their soul gifts is they help you to grow. They help you to love yourself. They help you to practice self-care. They help you to discover who you are. And they're often very, very brilliant at creating communities and hosting and coaching and mentoring people. Okay, Jackie, do you notice any of that in you?
Yes. And the first time I didn't know, when I first come on one of your courses, I didn't know about a number 2. And you did the shadow side first. And I felt so bad. But about the manipulative bit, but so you're not going there probably, but yeah, but when it got to the nice bit, that was lovely.
Yeah, well, it's all, look, come on, it's all nice, but here's the thing is what the Enneagram's trying to do, the Enneagram's trying to help you become yourself.
Yes.
So what the Enneagram's saying at 2 is, now look, you've got this gift and you've got this, 2s have a genius for helpfulness. Now the thing is, 2s have to remember that you're not the best supporting actress in everybody else's life only. you also are the main actress, the main actor in your own life. And that means you have to make sure that you let yourself be helped. You have to let yourself be loved. You got to let yourself be supported, because, you know, fundamentally, you're here to become even more and more of who you really are. So the work at 2, for example, is to let life love you. Yeah, because you're so good at loving everybody else.
Easy.
Yeah, but now the work is, okay, wait a minute, how could I let life love me as well? And one of the great meditations at 2 is, well, I know I'm really good at giving, but what about receiving? Yeah, if I'm going to grow, I've got to receive. I can't grow and not receive, so I've got to receive. Well, what's receiving like? Yeah, and that's the work. Yeah. How does that sound, Jackie?
Very good.
Mm.
Love you. Oh, thank you.
So if I'm going to become myself, it's really like becoming myself means sometimes I've got to let go of the role of being the giver and the helper and the carer. I know I'm really good at it, but that's not, you know, I've got to ease up on that sometimes so that
Yeah.
I can really let life love me.
Yeah.
Really let life help me. Yeah.
Too much of a people pleaser, trying to get away from that.
Yeah, sometimes that's what happens, isn't it? You know, is we just overdo it. And that's all the Enneagram's saying. The Enneagram's just saying, look, every now and then, everybody, you're just overdoing it. And you just got to like balance out a bit more here and live this really balanced life where you can love your ego and love your soul, and they can be great friends. Yeah, that's the work. Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
I'm going to just quickly just take you for a little walk around the other types, and then we're going to get into a breakout room. So type 3 is that's a me. I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. Type 3 is called the achiever. And the achiever is, I describe the achiever as the achievement orientated doing type. They are very much into doing stuff and getting stuff done. And they are very much the doers on the Enneagram. They are the type that want to bring out the best in themselves. They're the ones that want to do the best they can in the world. And an example of a good type 3, for example, would be Wayne Dyer. For instance, Wayne Dyer, his message was don't die with your music still in you. You know, express yourself. Oprah Winfrey, I don't know if she's a 3, but I would say she presents a lot of 3 traits, and her mantra, live your best life, that is an example of a 3. Do something good with your life. Do something great actually with your life. And the meditation here really is to work out at 3, if you want to do something with your life, what is it that you want to do with your life that is really worthwhile and meaningful? Now, if you don't ask that question as a 3, you'll just probably end up manic, busy, and hyperactive, and you'll do lots and lots of stuff, and you'll get to the end of your life and you'll wonder what it was all about, and you'll struggle to know if any of it was meaningful at all. But if you're conscious, yeah, and you hang out at the conscious cafe and you think about stuff, you will ask yourself every now and then, well, who am I? And what's meaningful to me? And what is the real work of my life, I wonder? And the real work of your life might be nothing to do with your job or your career or what you do for work. The real work of your life might be becoming, for example, more of your real self. Yeah. 3s are known for being able to put on a bit of a show. They're very good at impressing everybody. And sometimes you get so good at impressing people that we lead with our performance instead of with our genuineness. We think our performance is actually better than our genuineness. And our work is to perform less and be more genuine, for example. At 4, 4 is called the individualist, and type 4s have a strong drive to be original and to be seen as one of a kind. There's a wonderful poem by the Irish poet Yeats, who said, "I am looking for the face I had before the world was born." And the work here is very much about remembering our original self. I remember I had a four called Dottie, who came on one of my workshops once, who said, I tried to be normal. It was the worst 10 minutes of my life. I just can't do normal. I have to be me. I have to be original. I have to be unique. Now, fours run into trouble when they try too hard to make themselves original and unique. In fact, when they try really hard to be original and unique, they end up being a copy of something else. But when they relax, rather like the ones, and notice there is a line between 1 and 4 in the Enneagram, when you relax at 4, you start to tune into your original nature. And you become more and more authentic. And that's a wonderful thing in itself. So I'm going to pause there, because I think that's quite a lot to explore already. And let's do our breakout rooms, Gina, where we can take some time just to reflect on becoming ourselves, being even more soul-centered and less ego-driven. And for now, just getting a feeling of, well, what would it be like if I judged myself less? Point 1, what would it be like if I allowed myself to be helped a bit more? What would it be like at 3 if I was a little less busy and a bit more on purpose, doing something real with my life? And 4, how could I be being even more authentic? These are really rich inquiries, aren't they? I mean, each one of them deserves a lifetime. But I think if I do any more, we just get overloaded at this point. So let's get into our breakout room, Gina. Save me from talking too much, please.
Say the question for number 3 again, Robert.
Well, I think with three, it's about being less busy and doing something meaningful with my life. Yeah, when we're not conscious at 3, we're just busy. And busy looks so impressive, doesn't it? Oh my God, look at them. They're so busy. How amazing. But actually, often when you get a close-up, all the busyness isn't about anything important, really. It's just busyness. Whereas actually, when a 3 is really healthy, they will be busy, but it's because they're up to something meaningful. Yeah, and they're living a life of purpose rather than just being busy all day. Yeah.
So I'm going to stop the recording. Welcome back, everyone. Now here we are back. Robert, you've got the screen share going.
Yeah. So I thought maybe I could just take us on a little stroll around the Enneagram, and then we can get into some Q&A. And so type 5s, I think of them as the highly perceptive cerebral types. They're called the investigator or the observer. They have a love of knowledge and are lifelong learners. They have a deep desire to understand the mystery of the universe. They are the type most likely to count the number of drupelets in a raspberry. I don't know if you've ever done that, but like literally picked apart a raspberry and counted how many little drupelets there are in there. That's the sort of thing that a 5 would want to do. Mary Oliver, the poet, said, instructions for living a life: pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it. I think she had a strong 5 energy. Some great filmmakers like David Lynch, Christopher Nolan, Wes Anderson. 5s are often start off scientific and logical, and then they blend that science and that logic with a sense of mysticism. And they become real seers. They have this capacity to really see. Think of Eckhart Tolle, for example, as well. And the work at 5 is not just to observe life, but to participate in it, and to find a way to enjoy the mystery of life as well. Enjoy the mystery of life. Sixes are called the loyalist. And sixes are often, I think of them as the highly intuitive doubting type. They are the type that are born with a question mark over their head. They are looking for something to believe in. They are looking for somebody who passes their test, and they want to commit themselves to a cause that they really believe in, something really, really worthwhile. They're very, very loyal friends. Yeah, if you have a 6 in your life, you're very, very lucky. Louise Hay was a 6. And we wrote a book together called Life Loves You. And the great gift that 6s have is their 6th sense. They have a 6th sense. And Louise Hay described her 6th sense as her inner ding. And if you know anything about Louise, you'll know that really her life changed for her when she was 49. It was 49. She said, up until 49, I really bumbled along at life and I didn't really know what to do with myself. But at 49, she was going through a divorce. She had a cancer diagnosis. She was at rock bottom. She went to listen to a lecture. And during that lecture, she heard a voice inside her say, pay attention, and get ready to change your life. That voice she described as her inner ding. And her work really was to learn to live a guided life. Living a guided life, following your 6th sense, following your intuition. So that's, and really the work at 6 is choosing love over fear. 7 is called the enthusiast. And they are the highly enthusiastic, adventurous type. 7s are one of the types that really don't need to drink coffee. You know, they're already fully caffeinated. They've got lots of energy. They see life as an adventure. They say yes to each new day. They want to live life to the full. They won't live an unlived life, that's for sure. They want to be happy, but their block often is that they're chasing happiness instead of following their joy. And that's what I'd ask you to consider here at 7, is the difference between chasing happiness and following my joy. I'll suggest to you there's a world of difference between chasing happiness and following your joy. At 7, the work is often on an ego level is we're very future driven. I gave a TED talk called Destination Addiction, and that would fit for 7s. 7s are very much sort of destination driven. I'm going to get there. You know, actually, you ask a 7, how are you? They'll say, oh, I'm getting there. They'll tell you about their next adventure. They'll tell you what's on their bucket list. They'll tell you about everything that's going to be great in the future. But actually, being really, really healthy at 7 is all about following your joy rather than chasing happiness. 8 is called the challenger. And 8s are the strong-willed, assertive type. And they are often self-reliant, big-hearted, very direct. They love to be in charge. And essentially what they're looking for in life is a challenge, something to live for, something to go for. Steve Jobs of Apple, he had this mantra, which was, let's make a dent in the universe. That's what 8s like to do. 8s like to make an impact. They want to be strong. They want to march to the beat of their own drum. Martin Luther King is one that almost everybody talks about at 8. He was somebody who, he said, to become a full person, you have to be tough-minded but tender-hearted. And the work at 8 is to work out what real strength is, because 8s want to be strong. So, okay, well, what is real strength then? Also at 8, it's about, at some point in your life, you're going to have to tune into a higher power. So it's actually about surrender, which is interesting because often at 8 to begin with, it's the last thing we're thinking of. I don't want to surrender. That's a defeat. But well, no, if you want to be strong, if you want to be powerful, you've got to tune into a higher power. You've got to tune into something more powerful than your ego. And then we get to 9. 9s are called the peacemaker. They are the peaceful, easygoing type. They are blessed often with heavenly qualities. They sit up there at the top of the Enneagram. They have a gentle spirit, a non-judgmental nature, a calm personality, a positive outlook. And they're great. The great wish is for the peacemaker is to experience inner peace. Inner peace is absolutely the number one goal of a type 9. The block to becoming ourselves at 9 is that we try to create inner peace by withdrawing from the world. So at 9, we live on cloud 9, which is close to the world, but it's not exactly in the world. And we are living inside our peace bubble, and we're living inside our comfort zone at 9. And we're avoiding the news, and we're having minimal contact with our family. We're making sure that we don't have too much contact with anybody. We love humanity. It's just we find people a bit difficult to be with. And we prefer trees and pets and young children to adults. And we're doing everything we can to preserve our inner peace by withdrawing from everybody. And yet the soul gift of an 8 is that of a 9 is that we're peacemakers. We're here to bring peace to the world. Rather than avoiding conflict, our work is conflict resolution. And anybody who's ever experienced somebody at 9, and I think of somebody like Maya Angelou, I think she's a great example of a 9, you'll see that they're people who really do participate in the world, and they bring their peace with them. And when you're with them, you feel more peaceful, quite frankly, and you feel blessed, and you feel like you're in the presence of, a very loving presence as well. So the great work there is to come off cloud 9 and actually participate in the world, and to know that really there is a peace in you that cannot be disturbed. It's not a peace you make, it was a peace you were given in the first place, and it was given to you by the divine. So anyway, there you go. This is a very short example, of the Enneagram and the journey of the Enneagram. And I promise you, it's taken me 20 years to be that succinct in describing it. But maybe we can pause for a moment here and maybe take some questions or some comments about what we've been working with. Yeah.
Let's see whether we've got some questions here. Well, you didn't explain when you showed that beautiful diagram, was the relationship with all those arrows.
Yeah.
Whether you want to talk about that or not. Teresa's got a question.
About the arrows?
No, probably she's just got a question. Should we let her speak?
Yes, and then I can, I'm certainly happy to have a little.
Yep, okay, go ahead.
Hi, Robert.
Hello, lovely to see you.
I'd just like to make a comment. I have type 9 patterns.
Yeah.
I think you've done an absolutely beautiful job tonight. Like you, I've been doing the Enneagram for 15 years. I teach it, and so often it raises people's shackles, and you have just allowed everyone to receive it. It's just been really beautiful. And the thing with the 9, which I love what you've just said about not needing to disconnect, because for people who've got a 9 in their life and they just don't understand the behavior, is one of the problems is when you get with people, you lose your sense of self completely. You're just lost in their world.
Yeah.
You don't know you are, because you're very distracted, you're very other referencing, you know, and therefore to energize, you have to withdraw. And the work is, and it's been my journey for 15 years, I sometimes manage it, sometimes don't, is exactly what you said. It's not either or. It's
No.
not losing myself, assent, or withdrawing.
Yeah.
It's both.
Yeah.
And you've just summed it up very succinctly in that one sentence. So thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's really lovely. And it's really nice to hear, because what I want to say is, like, I've got, in my life, I've got friends and family at all of these points. And I deeply, deeply love all of my friends and my family. And one of the reasons why I love working with the Enneagram is because I do think the Enneagram is incredibly respectful, actually, of us. I think the Enneagram is very respectful of how hard it is to be a person in the world. It's really hard, really hard to be, it's difficult to be in the world. Scott Peck, in his book, The Road Less Traveled, the first line is, life is difficult. If you can accept that life is difficult, then you can do something about it. But I love what you've just said as well, with 9, it's one of my dearest friends is someone I've known since I was 18. And, I'm just so grateful to her for sticking with the challenge of being in the world, because over time she's found her place. She's found her place in the world, and she brings forward this gift of being just such a healing presence and such a loving. She's actually the godmother of both of our children. And she has that capacity to really be there for them in this way where they feel so accepted and so loved. And we couldn't ask for a better godmother, in a sense, because of that. But I'm also incredibly respectful of how many times it would have appeared to be easier just to have lived on cloud 9 instead of joined in, you know what I mean? And we always say, like, cloud 9 should be a retreat and maybe even a timeshare, but not your permanent residence. So definitely find your cloud 9, have a good cloud 9 moment where you recharge, but then promise to come back into the world and share your gifts with us,
And as you say, no, there's a part of you where that peace won't be disturbed.
Yeah.
Don't lose yourself. Don't lose your sense of self.
Yeah. So great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, Teresa. Debbie said in her breakout room, they spoke about changes throughout life. So does our type change as we change, develop and grow?
Yeah. So the general feeling is that you are born with this filter, with this type. We don't know that for sure, but I'm just sharing with you the general feeling amongst teachers of the Enneagram is that actually there's nature and nurture, but most of us are born with a type. The one thing that the Enneagram recognizes is that each and every one of us goes through a separation phase, a sense of separateness. And that sense of separateness really is humanity's original wound. That's the wound we're all addressing, is our sense of separateness. And to deal with that sense of separateness, the Enneagram recognizes there are these 9 ways of dealing with that sense of separateness. And for example, at 1, we experience the separation as a fall from grace. And because of that fall from grace, we try to make ourselves into a good person so that we can experience heaven again. For example, the point is that I think what the Enneagram is asking you to do is to go on a path of growth that's going to help you really love and appreciate your ego, and also help you to become more of the essence of who you really are. In fact, everything that your ego is made of is really the material for what the soul will work with and will become. So the work of the real sense is, to keep it short for now, is generally speaking, you do tend to be the same type all the way throughout. You may have mistyped yourself. So as you grow, you may think to yourself, oh, I used to think I was a 6. Well, no, it's normally with a 6, I do it this way. I used to think I was an 8, but actually now I realize I'm more of a counterphobic 6. I used to think, because they look similar, but when you look on the inside, the engine is made up of slightly different. A lot of people would like to be a 4. The 4 is quite popular in certain cultures. It's sort of a romantic number, but actually 4s will tell you it's really quite difficult being a 4, and it's not as romantic as it seems. So we can mistype sometimes. That's something to think about. There is also, we should say, that every type has 2 wings. So, for example, if you're a 9, you've got a wing of an 8 and a wing of a 1. Now, those wings can have a big influence on your life, and you may find at one point in your life you're a bit more, you're flapping your 8 wing maybe a bit more than you're flapping your 1 wing. I'll give you an example for me. I'm a 3, so I've got a wing of a 2 and a wing of a 4. Now, the way I live, I tend to flap my 4 wing in the morning and flap my 2 wing in the afternoon. And what I mean by that is that in the morning, I'm very much the artist, I'm the mystic, I'm doing inner work. And then in the afternoon, I'm much more the helper, the servant, the giver, the carer. I'm coaching people, I'm mentoring people, I'm giving people, I'm doing lectures. So I'm calling upon both wings, and I'm working with them. Now, at certain points in your life, you may decide, you may find you're more in one wing than in another. So what I'm trying to say is that the model is fluid. It's not as fixed as it may seem. And ultimately, as you keep becoming more and more of yourself, you will be able to draw upon all 9 points on the Enneagram and notice that they all belong to you. The whole circle belongs to you. There's 9 wonderful gifts here. There's 9 wonderful resources here. And the less fixed you are, the more you can enjoy all of these wonderful types. And actually, in the way Teresa was talking, like at 9, once you get a sense of self, then you really can relate to all of the other types in a very beautiful and harmonious way. But if you haven't got a sense of self, you can then lose yourself in all of those other energies. And so that's why the balance is getting a sense of yourself and then being able to relate to all of the other points too. Yeah.
Elizabeth, to explain the work or the challenge of the number 6, just flag.
Okay. Yeah. So Elizabeth, the challenge at 6 is really the work at 6, I think, is what can I trust? What can I trust? 6s, as I say, are born with a question mark over their head. Got a lot of questions about life. They are known as the doubting type. Now, doubt sometimes gets a bad rap in life, like, if you're full of doubt, that's not a good thing. But the philosophers would say, well, wait a minute, doubting is the beginning of wisdom. You've got to be able to doubt something. Otherwise, if you just take everything on as face value, you'll never really know what's true or not. So doubt is considered very healthy. The problem at 6 is when we get caught in the doubt and we end up not trusting anything. So the work at 6 is to balance doubt and trust. It's to know when to doubt something in a healthy way, but you also are cultivating a sense of trust. You're learning what to trust and not. Now, how do you know what to trust? Well, you start by asking lots of questions. And why do we ask lots of questions? Why do children ask as many questions as they do? They're asking questions so as to find, by asking questions, they're learning to tune into their 6th sense. They're learning to tune into their inner voice. They're learning to listen for what's true. And all of us have a 6th sense. We all of us have an intuition. We all of us have an inner knowing. And at 6, the work is to cultivate that inner knowing. And it's to cultivate that 6th sense and to trust, and this is the big thing, to trust that you really have got what it takes in order to live a very good life. And that's the journey Louise Hay took, for instance. Once she found her inner ding and she started to listen to that inner ding, her sixth sense, that really, really helped her live a guided life. And she lived a guided life all the way up until the end of her life, a life where she kept growing. And in fact, you know, in terms of our subject today, becoming yourself, one of Louise's favorite exercises at the beginning of every year was, how will I grow this year? And that she would follow that. And how would she answer that question? She'd answer that question by listening to her inner ding. Yeah.
So, Robert, we have a question from Norma about, can you be part of 3 numbers? Possibly she hasn't done the test, but she's asking, can you be part of 3 numbers?
So all the numbers represent, if you like, 9 energies that you have access to. So you can the Enneagram is a circle which represents your wholeness, and all of these numbers represent on the highest level soul qualities that we all have access to. We all have access to inner peace. We all have access to a 6th sense. The idea here with the Enneagram is that we will resonate with one of these numbers more than the others, and that will be our number to be. So that's our ego self, if you like, that we're going to work with. That number becomes our path of growth. And if you stick with that number, you're going to learn about yourself. You're going to learn how to encounter a basic fear in you. You're going to learn how to have a healthier relationship with your heart and a healthier relationship with your psychology. And it's going to help you grow into the person you most want to be. Now, after that, there are variations on how to work with the Enneagram. And all I will say is that there are triads in the Enneagram that you might want to know about. So you might resonate as a 2, you might discover you also resonate with a 7 and a 9, and you learn, oh, wow, the 2s, the 7s and the 9s are all part of what's called a positive outlook group. Or you may, as a 1, have a very strong sense of duty and you want to do something good in the world. Well, it just so happens 2s and 6s also have a very strong sense of duty and they want to serve and do something good in the world. So I will just say there's more to it than meets the eye. And it's one of the reasons why anybody who loves the Enneagram just can stick with it, because it meets you with such depth. And there is a lot more to it. But here's the thing I would always remind people of. The work isn't about really learning about the Enneagram. The work is about learning how we can be our true selves. And the Enneagram is a brilliant, it's like it's a microscope and it's a telescope. And if you want to, you can spend your whole life learning what the microscope's made of or what the telescope's made of. Or you can also just look through the microscope at the person that you are and enjoy how the Enneagram's helping you become more of your true self. So we've got an option here. We can learn loads and loads about the Enneagram, and let's do that. But let's remember that most importantly, the Enneagram is designed to help you be yourself, know yourself and be yourself.
So Robert, we've got
and the lines, Gina, just to be quick, because you mentioned it, those lines are called the inner lines, and they point to invitations for growth for you. So, for example, a 1 has a line going to 4, and it has a line also going to 7, and there would be 2 invitations for growth for you as a 1. There'll be a gift and a lesson for you at 4, and there'll be a gift and a lesson for you at 7. And that's why you'd want to know where those lines are heading.
So we mentioned about a book.
Yes.
You have a book, what you've talked about tonight and more, because somebody's asked about, are you born or is it nurtured in you, your profile?
Yes. Yeah, I know. There's some brilliant books out there. I mean, there really are. And they're all good in their own way. I mean, personally, I like to recommend Wisdom of the Enneagram, which is by Don Riso and Russ Hudson. I also love to recommend Deborah Egerton's book, Enneagram Made Easy. Deborah Egerton is the serving president of the International Enneagram Association right now. But I'd recommend those two.
When's your book out?
I was going to ask Teresa as well. What else would you recommend, Teresa, as a good Enneagram book?
I think the latest one from the Chestnut and Uranio Paes is a really good starting book, and also an action book. There's an action for each type in there. So yeah, that's a really lovely book.
What was that one called?
Do you want to just write it in the chat?
I'll show you a picture while you ask another question.
Yeah.
Well, Jackie's got her hand up, wants to speak. So let's just quickly go to Jackie.
It is just quick, but when you did the video with Holly about the Enneagram, Holly mentioned something that she realised that her dad, as a number, I think he was 4 or 8, and she was a 4 or 8, was trying to love her as a, and it made sense that when you understand a bit of the other number, why that person loves in that way.
Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, I have to say, so Love and the Enneagram is one of my just all-time favorite programs to run, because it's the program where we understand how each type likes to express their love, also how they like to be loved. And we have, it's like looking at the love languages of each of the Enneagram types, and that's the program that Holly and I will be running in Findhorn, Scotland later this year. And we really love running that program because it just supports people in understanding each other better, I would say, so yeah, I think it's a really good
to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Teresa, did you find
Jackie.
that book, Waking Up? Wow, there we go.
Okay, done a screenshot now, but anyway, we can't hear you. I'm going to put
don't worry, that's okay. Beatrice Chestnut. Yeah, and then Wisdom of the Enneagram. That's amazing as well. They're brilliant. Well, there's 2 superb books right there.
That's fantastic. Well, we're looking forward to your book coming out in the summer. And you said you've got a retreat at Findhorn. So I know that Judy's going to send out an email with the recording and those links. But what I want to say now is, Robert, is thank you. I mean, you've just opened the door to a whole new way of seeing the world and our inner world. It's a lot to think about, and this is easily something to listen to again, because as you explained, it's a very big subject, but beautifully done, because it really has given us all something to think about.